Ready? All right. We'll call the meeting to order at 6:01 p.m. All members are present except for Jackie. I believe she's at the school tonight for open house. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Father God, thank you for allowing us to join tonight. And Father, we just ask that you be with each and every one of us as we discuss the fund budget season and to kick off the budget. Father, I thank Adrian for putting in so many hours on this on such a short notice and bring it to where he brought it. So Father, we just ask that you keep us all on task and make the best decisions possible for the citizens of Arlen. In your name we pray. Amen. Amen. So there's no citizens communication. So we'll move into the boards, commissions, and committees presentations. So item number 1, Cemetery Committee monthly update. Mr. Jones.
We been working on our directory out there. We've got a gentleman building it. We're coming pretty close for it. We got our frame and everything up. And we're going to be able to get the directory built. We're going to have closed doors and list of all the lots and people in the area up there. So we're not really on it. We trimmed a couple of trees out there, but that's about probably that's it.
Thank you, sir. I know you are also working on the files, straightening out all the files.
Yes.
Appreciate y'all.
Get our file together.
Yes, sir. Appreciate that. Tyner Memorial Library Board monthly update, Mr. Luna.
I have the report, but at home. I just came from work. But she did give it to me. That's my fault right there.
It's totally unacceptable.
I know. That's two write-ups right there.
2 write-ups today, man. That's yeah. Libraries, obviously plugging away. AP still there, and Dina and any other volunteers that
But I do have one question on the library.
Yes,
I know we put a work order in for some concrete work, and it didn't look too good. You can still trip on it. They didn't even fix exactly what we wanted to fix.
Who did the concrete?
What's that?
Who did it?
I have no idea.
All right, we'll look at it and address it.
How can we help the city identify what needs to be fixed at the library concrete project? Do we need to lay down masking tape?
I didn't even know anything was being fixed.
Oh,
So it's kind of news to me. I've been out of town a lot, but
It was actually, we're supposed to be fixed, it's like when you walk out the door,
I don't know.
like maybe 2 feet, 3 feet from the door, but the concrete is sitting. Even Mr. AP said he would clean it out and refit, put the chicken wire down there, but somebody told him not to do it.
okay. We'll have to look at it and just go.
But they went on the other sections of the sidewalk, they put in this like little balls of concrete, trips, boom.
So the concrete work needs addressing. Gotcha. Okay. Municipal Development District monthly update. Phaedra.
We've given Red and White Grocery over $12,000 for their renovation. Looking at our budget for fiscal year 2025, right? Looking at doing another 3 business grants for 2025. Looking at helping the auto store on 95 getting a lift. Helping the donut shop get their light updated, their sign updated out front. And the third, I don't remember what the third one is right now.
Good.
Maybe so is.
Okay, cool, thank you. Parks and Facilities Committee monthly update. The pool is closed for the season. Thank God. That's such a thorn in my side. Next year, I'll make a suggestion that we don't open the pool unless we have adult management. Yeah, we can talk more about that next season, but still some things that need to be done around the pool, obviously. And I know we approved in the past $15,000 with a grant match from the MDD. City 15,000, MDD 15,000 for work at the Baker Caldwell Baseball Complex. I've got the quotes back for the basketball pickleball court, and we're under budget on that. Came in under budget, plus the bleachers and the basketball goal and netting for the pickleball. It's all, it should be within the budget. Just haven't ordered anything yet just because I wanted to wait until to look at the finances first and see about this, what we're going to receive from the movie scenes. But that's been approved. It's just kind of quotes have come in, and we're good. So we'll get that going soon. All right, moving on. Consent agenda. Receive monthly department reports. City administrator, city secretary, municipal court, development services, utility billing, public works, and the police. And also item number 6, approved minutes from the following meetings. 7/8/2024 regular meeting, 7/22/2024 regular meeting, and that's it. Anybody need to discuss any of the department reports? Got anything you want to add? Chief, anything? Just need a motion for the consent agenda. Ms. Cooper's got a motion to accept the consent agenda
Second.
with Mr. Jones second. All in favor? Carried 4-0. Moving on to the regular agenda, review, discuss, and consider action. Item number 1, discuss review of draft fiscal year budget 2024-2025.
Thank you, Chief. All right, everyone. Thanks for working with me on putting this budget together and your patience on getting this out. I kind of want to start this conversation addressing our probably known issue that we may have in the city is what we budgeted last year doesn't really match what our books say. Chief had pointed out that our fund view account doesn't reflect the 2023-2024 budget. So what I used to develop this budget for the FY 2024 to 2025 are the 2023 actuals and 2024 actuals. The numbers that you see here up to date are as of August 1st. I do have a few key points that I do want to address, but before I move on, is there anybody that wants to share anything about the budget, any key concerns, or any details that may be a red flag, or nobody? Council?
Adrian,
Yes,
is
ma'am.
it okay if I say something? Not on council, but.
For now, let's do the conversation with the council, because right now we're not at the public hearing stage yet. But thank you. No comments yet?
Okay.
All right. Here's a little bit of my notes. So the kind of budget that we use is Government Accounting Standards Board format. It's a line item based budget where we have different accounts as seen. General fund is 01, and then the subcategories is 00 non-departmental, 11 administration, 12 being court, 15 being parks and recreation, and each of these categories have subcategories under them, which are these codes. Is how we identify the fund that we're looking at. So we want to look at property tax. We look at 116005 for maintenance and operations. This is our property tax for next year and this year. We expected $719,000. We actually only collected about 88% of it. And next year we expect to budget for $739,000, so just a $20,000 jump from last year's property taxes this year. But that is basically your general accounting practices for government. We do have 3 funds, as you guys know. We have the utility fund, general fund, and special revenue fund. But we're only going to look at the general fund and utility fund. So something you guys may have noticed at the very top of your first page is that we do have a pretty big deficit in our revenues in the general fund. We're at a negative $851,000. And that's revenue against expenditures in the general fund. However, there is an explanation for that deficit, and it's not as scary as it might seem. If you look at administration revenue at item 116990, transfer between funds, as highlighted on the screen, we did not transfer what we said we would from the utility fund to the general fund. So we're not reimbursing ourselves from our surpluses in the utility fund to our general fund. Is that making sense to everybody? Because what drives the city's business is its utilities. It's water, wastewater, electrical, and garbage. We have about like $800,000 revenue over there, but we have such a big deficit in our general fund because we're not making those transfers. So what I've done this year, as we kind of expect, is to use the revenue from the utility fund to compensate for the expenses or the overhead cost of the operations in the city. You might notice in the last column, we are $20,000 over. What I propose that we do is do a $590,000 transfer from the utility fund revenue to cover the expenses in the general fund. This includes contracting, payroll, cell phones, just regular city operations, software, licenses, etc. And you'll still notice even after the $590,000 transfer, the utility fund still remains $253,000 over its expenditures. Is there any questions yet? Everybody doing good? All right, I'll keep going. So I did make some personnel changes. After speaking with the department heads, the chief of police, and the superintendent for utilities, there have been some requests for personnel changes and adding personnel. And myself have also made some requests, made pretty clear at the beginning of my position here, is that we were going to need an accountant. Our invoices and our expenditures should be designated to specific line items found in our budget, and we're not doing that so clearly. It'll help if someone's completely dedicated to monitor all the invoices and all the revenues the city receives and dedicates them to the right line items so we have a more clear picture in fiscal year 2026 and moving on. The utility superintendent requested an additional 2 personnel, and our chief of police has requested additional 2 personnel as well, and the promotion of an existing police officer to sergeant to monitor the 2 new police officers. I do have to be clear, though, that I did not budget an additional 2 personnel for utilities and a personnel for the police department. But including them, they're still at a pretty clean number, about $100,000 over expenditures, and that includes the city accountant, a records keeper for general records of the city, includes our 2 added police officers and 2 new public works workers. We expect that our end of year revenue to stay within about 100,000. Is there any questions on that? Okay.
Sounds good so far, Andrew.
The accountant will be about $50 an hour for part-time position, so no benefits. There's a bit of cost savings there. We'll see how that manages, and if their workload is able to sustain that within a 20-hour work week for the municipal treasurer or the city accountant, however you want to call it. The bookkeeper will be at about $15 an hour. I did budget the police officers at a lesser rate than city council had proposed to kind of stay within a reasonable budget. It'd be $27 an hour for patrol position, $31 an hour for the sergeant position, and then a merit adjustment for the chief of police. There was merit adjustments done across the board for staff who's been here at least over a year. So myself, the utility superintendent, the new lineman, the apprentice did not get any kind of merit adjustments, but I did manage to incorporate about an average of 5% towards most of the personnel. We did have some staff who were making about $15 an hour in the public works department, and that seemed fairly low for what they do, and we give them credit for their duration here. Everybody, the minimum standard of public works department is $20 an hour now, and that's already been painted under this proposed budget. Any comments on that, guys? Good.
Well, the only comment I got, and I appreciate you getting more money because they need to be responsible for that, and we need to get a better product sometimes for them.
Understood. Yeah, so that's kind of what my conversations with Jacob is, have more personnel to not do so much the lesser work like cutting the grass opposed to fixing the water line. I have more of a quality control in our performance, but it's certainly something we need to evaluate next year and see how their performance has improved or not with the added 2 personnel. It very well could be that since they're managing almost every other sector of the city other than garbage and electrical, it may be overwhelming under 3 guys. So we'll see how their performance adjusts to the next fiscal year.
Accountability is what we're looking for.
Okay. And certainly we could always look for performance measures in their work orders. This is a little bit off topic, but in terms of personnel, setting some of these performance measures practices is probably ideal. It's what I plan to do with the permits department, but it's not to say that it stops there, but look at public works, maybe in the utilities, in the records, and so forth. That's that on personnel changes. There is a few concerns that I do have. Well, let me backtrack a little bit. There was one notable change I did make to personnel. I did sponge up the training budget. Past years was pretty low and not really used. And there's not training budget necessarily for only the administrative staff, but if the public works department is looking to get a license, help us in the water department or the sewer, because right now our wastewater operator, Shane, he is a sole man. He is a sacred cow, essentially. I'm really sorry about that. He's a sacred cow in our wastewater. He's the only person who has a license to do anything about it. God forbid anything happens to him, but it's better to have a skill like that spread out across the board. And if we're giving these men the utilities to actually get themselves advanced in their career, it could be a big asset to the city and justify for further merit increases. And for the police department, we budgeted very low last year for training the police. I'll pull it up here. That's personnel. Last year in police, we budgeted about $2,600. We've only used about $240, and I've moved that up to about close to 10,000. The chief and I had a conversation about furthering his education and in achieving the certified public managers accreditation. It's a very high level certification to get in the state of Texas. Of several universities across the state, A&M, UT Brownsville, UTRGV, Texas State University, have come together and created a curriculum for the creation of almost city managers or government leaders. The chief has asked if there's a way to incorporate that balance to the budget, and it's about a $4,800 cost. It was his budget request to put it in, and I support him behind it. My time here isn't promised to be forever, and it would be nice if there could be some succession planning incorporated in our fiscal years. And through that, I would recommend that the chief does attend the CPM program, so that he may soon become the city's administrator, or at least if the city needs someone to step up, we know the chief has an accreditation for it. Is there any comments on that? Very well. Moving forward onto engineering costs. This is probably the one that worried me the most and caught me by surprise. I'm going to step away from the Excel sheet for a minute and refer to my notes. Item 70 under the utility fund, 70,7654. We spent $118,000. Under 80,7654. We spent $473. We spent about $592,000 in engineering fees. Now, I really hope this is a false reading in our accounting, but if it is, we've spent way too much. It's an absurd amount of money for engineering services. At that amount of almost $600,000, we could just hire 5 engineers as full-time staff. We're gonna have to be real careful. So I've cut down our engineering budget immensely. And it's something that we'll have to be monitoring very, 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 very closely. That's what's busting the budget the most. But if what we reported on FundView and in our ledger to be right, that's a very intimidating number.
What would we have done there?
I'm wondering if it's the grants and stuff that we had a lot of ARPA projects that was reimbursed from the county. I mean, and everything had to be engineered.
That's right.
In order to spend it. So I'm wondering if that's got a lot of the
The
inflated amount compared to previous. Because every one of those projects has to be engineered.
Yeah.
In order to spend the dollars. And same thing with the grants, like the sidewalk stuff, the flood infrastructure stuff. That was all engineering services.
But we would have gotten that money back.
A
correct?
lot of it would have been.
So that's kind of where I get into the city accountant. It doesn't appear that we're recording those reimbursements from those grants. Very well, we did spend about $600,000 in engineering, but it doesn't show in our fund view or ledger that the grants are reimbursing those expenses. Which is kind of how I started this conversation, where last fiscal year we budgeted $375,000 to be transferred from the utility fund to the general fund, but it never happened, even though this report is from 80% through the fiscal year. That may be what the case is, that these grants are not being recorded in our ledger, even though we did spend it out of the general fund, but it was then quickly supplemented through the grant. May be the case. But we do have regular meetings with the engineer. Maybe that's what's driving the bill. We do have regular meetings with the engineers and the school. Maybe that's what's driving the bill. But I have not had enough time to review every single invoice to verify whether that is as true as it is. But regardless of the fact, we've still spent a lot. And if that's coming out of most of the taxpayers' budget, and that's something we have to carefully evaluate in the coming next fiscal year. And it's something that if we do manage to retain an accountant at $50 an hour at a part-time position, that's what we're all should be looking at, making sure that they get that specific detail correct, that our engineering fees are in line with our budget and our expenditures and the like. Any other comments on that? Another big concern. Another big concern is some of our operations in the city. As soon as we got here a few weeks ago, noticed that some of our contracts aren't being as closely monitored as it should be. Our cell phone and internet bill altogether for all departments in the city have ranged to $30,000, which sounds absurd to me. My phone bill could never reach that in 100 years. That's quite a lot. So I bring this cell phone detail up to bring us into a more broader conversation about contracts. Even evaluating the uniform contract that we have, it looks pretty disadvantageous for us to even have that. So in the next year, what I hope to do with the record keeper is to identify lost contracts, make sure that we're holding them to the standards, not paying more or less than what we've agreed to, or canceling contracts that are just strictly against the city's favor. I have yet to find them all, obviously, but it's something that in the next year or so or more that we're going to have to be very close attention to, not just writing blank checks to AT&T for $30,000.
That's just the cell phone plus the internet, right?
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't include the AT&T lines, or it's the desk
It might.
lines? It might.
It might.
The AT&T line, once you show me that bill, it's pretty shocking. Since we're a 254 area code, they're charging the city long distance if we're calling Georgetown.
Yeah.
I mean, you got like a 7-minute phone call for $5.14.
Yeah.
To Georgetown.
We need to use Wi-Fi calling.
Drive there.
Which I actually got a quote on that
you know?
about a week ago for about $170 a month for VoIP services. Sorry, guys. I don't know what those timers are. But yeah, so that alone would shrink the budget, would shrink the expenditures by $20,000. We just got an invoice that we need to repair a truck for $15,000. You know, it's at that point, it's evaluating these agreements that are just have uncontrollable rates. They got to be careful with. If we can't get a hold of these expenditures, or we're just signing off these these invoices, we may need to install some kind of purchasing policy or financial policy for staff to make sure that council is aware when we're exceeding our spending limit. Yes, Chief?
On the save funds, years ago, which I did see in the account, when the mayor was looking at some phones that are questionable. But the council voted years ago that only the police department and officers have a phone and supervisor and one on call.
Hmm.
And so that should be only save phone that's out. All the rest of the phones should not have it.
But which is probably that part where I was talking about the records person, is to identify all these policies that the city has worked on over the years. I mean, you sat in through all those conversations essentially the past decade and a half. And how many of them are still getting applied today? That's why personally, I strongly believe in having a records clerk, is to revive those policies that we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We've already adopted them. And so that's my value in that records clerk. Big thing is records, financials, contracts. And that's really it. And policies. You just got to revive them.
Then on the AT&T, we used to have a separate provider. I don't know if we still do it.
Mm-hmm.
We had a separate provider that charged us lesser for the long distance.
Mm-hmm.
And we used to pay them for the long distance, them for the local. I just don't know what happened to it.
Well, it might be just worth it that we jump to the VoIP, and we call it China all day if we want. And as long as it's done through the internet, we're fine. You don't have to worry about any of that anymore. I've pretty much gone through a lot of the big points that I wanted to bring to council. Now, go ahead, scratch it up. Is there any comments, any specific details you want to see? Things that have been a problem in the past that may have not been addressed here today. This goes for staff too, Ms. Brenda and Chief. Is there any things you guys want to bring up?
Training, are we doing we talked about in the past about some regular safety meetings for these guys. They never had any safety meetings.
Okay. So you think that we should probably create that in part of the curriculum of being a public works?
That's part of being a public works employee right
Yeah, I agree.
there. And they can do office safety too.
Yeah, that's right. So for public works, let me look at how much you budgeted in there. $5,000 in public works. And yeah, that number could always, $5,000 still seems kind of low to me. But I was trying to be a little bit conservative in the figures and at least be a little bit realistic.
Start small, we can grow it.
Yeah. I was talking to the mayor earlier today, and it will be worth our time after hiring an accountant, if that's the council still wants to do, that we do a revisit probably the first quarter after they're here, or second quarter, that the accountant's here, and really look at the financials and see how different what we have now is to then. And it gives a clearer picture about what we actually are spending our money on, and have we over budgeted or under budgeted other items. Any thoughts, Ms. Vicky? Okay. I did, we're still going to do we're going to have a legitimate public hearing on this. It is my first conversation with the council on this matter, but once we have the public hearing, we can still have more conversations and scrutiny over this specific budget. But while you're revising it, just keep in mind that in expenditures, all payroll, you'll find payroll being done in the general fund, and that's how we're going to pay the employees. But there's also in the utility fund a reimbursement line of what those costs are for electrical and the public works team.
How about two other times? One will be the community development and support. That money is where I use the national night out.
Okay.
So 13,760.
How much do you suggest? Here we've used about 2,500. We budgeted $7,000 last year, but what do you say? 3,000 consideration of.
I think we budgeted high last year because we were going to do a summer event also, but I don't guess we ever did a summer event this year. So
Okay.
I do like the National Night Out event.
Yeah, it's usually pretty good
It's a
turnout.
huge community get together. The last 3 have been really successful. 3 or 4 that I've been involved in. I'm sure the ones before that were
Good.
okay. But yeah, I'd like to see some money set aside for that.
Good.
For sure.
You know, something that's not considered in this budget is code enforcement. We still have a bit of a surplus after including most of the personnel that Jacob and the chief reminded me today. We still have about $100,000 left. We could either flip a role to be code enforcement, or we'd be cutting real close, not giving us enough margin of error to. I wouldn't feel comfortable going any further deep into the budget and assuming that we're gonna perfectly aim our expenditures next year and our revenues. I think $100,000 might be enough as a room for failure, but we could always still talk about the code enforcement officer being added to the budget or shifted around.
Well, let me ask you, like if we do the budget, and just go through, like, let's just say like you've got it right now.
Mhm.
And we get to that point, we can always amend the budget.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. We could plan that maybe in the middle of the year after we see a clear picture of our financials, that maybe that we do have room to wiggle in a code enforcement officer. I'm not sure how logistically that might work under supervision and kind of equipment and that goes in with it, but we could definitely wait on it. But I know it's been an issue that the public has brought around too about property standards.
And whatever happened to that, don't use the code enforcement officer, they go out the windows and still let them use our vehicle or what?
I know, did you hear any more of it that Roger's saying? I wasn't, the more and more I found out about it, I wasn't a huge fan of it just because you're paying into a pool from another city that's basically, I don't know, it's kind of like a co-op for code enforcement. And I don't know. And talking to Chief, who knows the ins and outs of the code enforcement laws, it would be extremely hard to make that something like that work because I think in order to enforce it, correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, but in order to enforce a lot of that stuff, you have to have full-time code enforcement on staff. And so a lot of stuff that we need to enforce, we wouldn't have been able to even enforce having the part-time co-op position. And I never heard anything else after Myra did go to one meeting, I guess, and
Clayton went to do for Hall, so
and Chief got more information out of Clayton, because Officer Clayton went to the one, for Holland, he went to it, and he got
There's Rogers Hall in Norfolk.
Rogers, Holland, Bartlett, Academy, Little River, and,
The biggest thing I think they would be able to do is pretty much just ride around and identify. I mean, we could pay someone way less to ride around and identify code violations. And we'll still have to do the letters, we'll still have to do the abatements, we'll still have to do that. We'll have a full-time employee for that.
yeah, it wasn't a whole lot of gain from what, yeah, so
I think we all can ride around and say, yes, yes, yes. Yeah. Turn it down.
But, yeah, I mean, code enforcement is something we've fallen way behind on just because we're so limited on officers. And, I mean, public safety is your number one duty. Code enforcement is just kind of, it's basically been complaint driven. So if somebody files a complaint, the chief investigates, or him and SWAT team
I know you
investigates.
didn't have time for that institutional thing about that, but it is changing the look of our town. People know we're not enforcing it out there. Broken out cars, rush calls, all kinds of crashes in front of doors. It's getting bad.
And the longer you go without it,
Or it is a change.
the harder to get someone to, well, I didn't have to do it. I've been like this for 4 years. My house has looked like that forever. And so the longer you go by, the more of expectations. It's hard to get everybody in line.
Somebody wants to do something nice to their house, you make them pay a fee. We could get that turned around.
Yeah, the code enforcement's it's definitely something we're lacking in. So,
Yeah, we did, I don't know what happened, but we did have all the equipment for animal control, and we were building that. Trucks been changed to public works.
Wow.
Stickers going off now. But,
can you take the sticker out?
Huh?
He took the sticker out.
Yeah.
I don't blame him. I would too.
He
Everybody kept.
kept
Because everybody
stopping.
gets that age.
There's a loose dog over here.
Everybody kept stopping, you're like, hey, I gotta come in here and complain. And we're like, but we did have all the equipment, but it's up to the council who will go to. And then you go back to animal control / code enforcement. But even without doing that, we still need to put something in the budget for Bell County, for the animal protection of Bell County. The last bill we got was $660.
Something.
So they bill us for when we take animals, only if we're doing animal control. But it doesn't sound like we are.
If we call them over, we take, if the officer takes one over there, we pay, I remember the interlocal agreement that we signed, last year.
Yeah.
Last year, 160, we take it over there, it's 60 plus 60 if they come and get it, so 120.
I see.
And that's only on the Bell County side, that does not include Wilson County side, we got nothing for this.
I see. All right. So under this item here, 137120, whatever you want to say it, you want to add 6,000?
No, but at least 1,000,
1,000.
at least 1,000.
And that's just for the Bell County shelter.
Yeah.
That's so if we drop a dog, if
Mhm.
chief or SWAT can pick up a dog, because right now they're our only licensed guys. If they pick up a dog and deliver it to Bell County, they're going to charge us a fee.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
Do they still charge if like a citizen drops a dog over and says,
I
I'm from
have
Bartlett?
a understanding with them that citizens cannot drop off unless I approve it, so they would call me first. Because we don't need citizens picking up,
Yeah.
20 cats and dropping it off.
Yeah, because that was a problem. So like citizens would pick up dogs and take them to the pen, and then the city would get a bill and it's like, we didn't drop no dogs off.
Wow.
We got a $600 bill because somebody dropped off 10 dogs over a 2-month period, It's just-
Wow.
or somebody's dogs had puppies or something like that,
That's funny.
Why would the city have to pay for it?
Now, if the council went back to animal control code enforcement, of course, there'd be a lot more because you have somebody literally that what their job is to pick up stray dogs and stuff like that. So of course that amount will go up.
That might, even then, no one separated those roles. just because you really want code enforcement to have office time. It's not just, like you said, going around town, pointing at the houses you don't like. You gotta have, you're building a case against someone essentially. And if they don't abide, that's when you start submitting them to the courts. You know, that's how you get those big fines. You gotta want someone who's focused in the actual ordinance and applying it to the real world situations. But if you're getting in a car every once in a while that my neighbor's dog won't leave my cat alone and keeps on pooping in my yard, yeah, technically it's probably a violation. But they're too much of a different task. There's a lot of paperwork in code enforcement. There's a lot of it.
So when you, just for example, like the house that's going up here, and you go through all the steps, does it go before our judge here or a judge somewhere else?
So standard builders and stuff comes to the council. It's a standard building comes to the council.
Just the last for
That's the first result.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't go to the judge, it's a standard building. That goes to the council. For our ordinance.
And then they petition it to go to the district. Okay, right?
Either they can do an order saying, hey, like I can give a process.
Mhm.
So go out the burnt building. We do the research of any interest in the property. We send off certified letters. If we can't reach anybody, we post it on the property, which I've seen we post things on the property sometimes. We also put it in the paper. And then in the notice, it's saying you're going to have a hearing in front of the council for your sustainability. So then the council can, either that person that has interest in the property can come here and say, hey, I need this much time, this is what I want to do. And then the same thing, the council needs to go, okay, we'll give you this much time. If not, we'll knock it down. But at the same time, you have to use the building official to go out and inspect it. And we backtrack to that. The building official will go out and inspect it, because I'm not a building official, I have construction. And we know it's a standard building, but we still need that documentation just to cover us for a lawsuit.
Is that something that you do?
Yes. But then it goes to council, council makes an order to destroy it, and the council has to pay for it. And then we go to lien on the property.
Yeah.
Which I think we, the mayor talked about it before, just to knock down a house, we estimate 10,000
Ish.
ish per
Yeah.
property. So that's one of the things.
Well, dumpsters,
It's over.
$800. And it may take 10 dumpsters to.
That's if they don't have anything hazardous.
Yeah.
So that was one of the things during our budget workshops that the council talked about, is putting at least a certain amount in there and kind of have a expectation to do a certain amount each year at least.
Only if you have a code enforcement officer. Because unless,
Chief and Swaukey are both licensed code enforcement officers.
Right.
And animal control.
is this something we're doing this year then?
I do whatever council needs me to do.
Just because,
You have a lot of time this year.
He ain't had a whole lot of time just because
I mean,
right?
Short-handed.
shorthanded.
Because
and then
if we
Swaukey
add
went
those
out.
two officers, maybe, or flip one of those officers. Sorry, Chief. This is your territory. I just want to stay controlled, and where we're not getting too close to the zero in our surplus, because then that could quickly flip real quick to negative 50,000, negative 100,000. Be real careful with if we're adding a position, but we can always adjust other line items in the budget, like reduce our contracting services. Like, I don't know where our cell phone is at. Even though we have such a high internet bill, I still put it at 4,000 because I haven't gotten anything signed yet. We're assuming we're remaining consistent, but in that fiscal review that we do after the accountant arrives, we could probably reduce that by a lot and start talking about those options of reallocating funds. But if it is a goal, we can talk about that. It'll keep that in mind moving forward in the fiscal review.
I know Mara started looking at FirstNet. and getting quotes from them. I never did hear anything else about the court square things like that.
I see.
But I'm not looking to
So now the new internet we have, Heritage, we're not being charged for that, are we?
I think we get it free.
I think we
We were
did
told it was free.
I think we did it free,
Yeah,
but that's just been in the last, what, few months that
Right.
it had been.
We've
And-
had it about 7 or 8 months now.
Oh, is it?
we had like 3 months, no, 2 months.
And just like you said, that might be free, but we may still be misappropriating expenditures towards this line item.
I got
Kind of how we started the conversation, that not all of our receivables and expenditures may be assigned correctly. That may be giving us a bit of a mirage in our budget. Any other questions, guys? Ms. Beck?
It's always, I'm sorry.
No,
It's
I
always
need,
chief.
you have the most history here.
13-9101. Now, one of the things that, and the council knows, I don't spend unless I got to.
Yeah.
And that's why you're gonna see over $100-some thousand not spent in the police
Mhm.
department. This budget, but getting close to, I know there was some things,
Wait.
but,
Which item again?
like, 13-9101 supplies.
Okay.
Operating supplies, not office.
Yeah.
I'm going to order some ammunition, probably in the next week or two anyway.
Okay.
But with more officers coming in, I'm gonna need, it used to be 5. This is where I order a lot of equipment, things that just kind of just got goes out of service. I'll give you an example, like I just ordered Friday, and today I'm gonna put it in. I ordered a firebox for my firewall inside the police department, because that was the end of life. So I ordered a 225 type 70 department. And I use supplies out in the office for that,
Mhm.
also ammo and things like that. That all comes out of there. And we all know $2,000 you can't get ammo.
Yeah.
From that. So fortunately, that's what I used that.
We got rubber bands in that room there.
Don't work this time, I'm sorry.
Okay. Wait, tentatively,
Rubber
it's a
bands
5,000 now.
Apparently.
And yeah, you see that it was budgeted around 4,000 last time, but in the last 2 fiscal years, we spent 1,000, and this year 250. But with
And
more officers
that's
coming in,
I haven't ordered any ammo
Yeah.
the last 2 years.
he's gonna need it.
I mean, I only
Very-
need one.
Very responsible. Yeah.
That's been the cause of that. Office supplies, I can work with 1,000. We figured it out. Just go ahead and make a big order now.
Oh, all the other
I did,
utilities,
I wanted to get inventory. I said,
What, you wanted no toaster or what?
Yeah.
all the other utilities have their own office supplies. Even though I noticed that we just depend on the office that's here. So why just have everything else spread out? Other than the police department, they have their own office. But if the water department still depends on the pens and paper that comes from, that Ms. Brenda orders, then what's the deal of separating all those line items and making it confusing? I kind of treat the administrative section 11 as the home base for office and office-like material, and really shrunk it to by a lot, and then the utility departments like electrical, water, garbage, etc. Right. Thank you for bringing that up, Chief.
Anything else?
Keep going?
Yeah.
No. Everybody keep going. I got all kinds of notes.
Come on. Let's go.
Well, I know you put in here for capital expenditures, right, for like a vehicle, right?
Yeah, we have 70,000. I know we finance our vehicles.
13,741.
Right.
30, maybe like 681.
What's that, the Tahoe?
Yeah, what was the payment on that? 1,000?
1,200,
633, I think.
that's the building,
Is that the bill?
You know.
And the other one was
1,200.
$500 or $600. I don't remember.
Let's say 1,200.
You're right,
So
Chief.
it's 1,200 times.
$1,256. and 85 cents.
There you go.
Wow. That's cool.
I remember that one.
That's for one, that's for the Tahoe tricked out, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, you know what?
when
You're
we
right.
Order that, that's gonna be about 4 or 5 months. Even if we order one today,
Yeah.
we'll look at about 6 months.
You're right. You know, this $70,000 that's my old city thinking. I'm used to buying these vehicles at cash and that's it. My old city don't like any kind of debt at all.
Hey, Martin.
No. They're in a way worse position and we argued
Not
that
us,
wasn't the
Martin.
best option.
We got all kinds of debt.
All right, you said 20,000?
I think if you round 1,300 times, let's just say 12, just to be sure, which is still every 6 months won't come.
That's one vehicle.
But we're talking about a down and then monthly expenditures, right? So down to be what, 10, 15,000?
We don't do anything that,
No down.
we finance through our bank.
Oh, okay. So you said 12?
1266 or 13.
Because last 2 years you spent 20,000.
Well, that's 1,300 a month times 12. So 13 times 12 is that about 15,000. So
So if you look
say
at 2 units,
30 grand. If you get to 30 grand a year, the next.
Is that what we're doing?
Maybe 2 cars.
2 cars?
30.
It's still cost saving. I had it at 70,000. So
But he had 70,000 1 year, not 5 years.
Because we stopped paying on the Tahoe that we have now that I drive this year.
Oh, neat.
When's their payoff on that? Do we know, Brenda?
I'm sorry.
The payoff on the Tahoe, do you know when that is?
It doesn't say on the bill.
Yeah, that one doesn't say.
The last time we talked to the councilman, I was here, she said that we should be paying that off this year.
She said it was already paid off.
Yeah, she said it was already paid
No,
off.
it's not paid off. I sign a check for it every month. I mean,
So we need to check.
Yeah.
Hopefully, it's gonna be settled.
well, they wouldn't be sending us the statement.
Let me see how much we have left.
Can we find, Miss Brenda, can we find out from the bank what the payoff is on the Tahoe and the building?
Yes.
So I do want to revisit an item here in training and administration. Sorry, Mayor.
No, no.
I did put $4,000, $2,000 more than last year. But I really want to get Miss Brenda, since she's now the city secretary, and frankly, the records management officer of the city, now that she's in that role and really matured into it. Brenda's been a fantastic help in a lot of the financial details of the city and contracts. I mean, she's able to spit out numbers just top of the head and knows every single invoice that comes in the past month. Although we're going to have that accountant, it's not a one-man job. I'd like to shift her role to more of a supervisor and leadership role, a bit more responsibility, but you know, as capable as she is, I still would like her to be enhanced through additional training and some kind of financial management, record keeping. If there's any protest on that, I support Brenda on that entirely. To have her go through. Oh, what was that certification I was saying?
It's almost like GOAT, but GOAT.
Right, the Government Financial Officer Accreditation, something like that. And put her more in that, a little bit in the financials and in the record management of the city. We get very little volume in municipal court. I think we're able to get by keeping her on that, but stacking on those duties of more financial management in support of the municipal treasurer. And hopefully the municipal treasurer, being the accountant, has some form of CPA license or that certified or government financial officer accreditation, and that they would work closely in that. Any thoughts on the training budget for administration?
Can you put enough in there for certified, not certification?
It's not something that was taken into account. Not sure if it'll be all that necessary. The approach that I've taken with permits is keeping the permits staff with a bright red line that you do not cross this boundary. We're not inspectors, we're not building officials, we're not professionals in the trade. They are, we leave that for the contractors. The only training that could come to mind, unless you think otherwise, is that they're able to do some project management on the job, making sure timelines are met, filling out the invoices correctly, creating project numbers on permits, and reporting to the consumer and our contractors what kind of information we need from them, or vice versa. But I do not want them or the city to be responsible on recommending building practices or, justifying or being the judge of boundary lines of properties. Leave that.
Thank you.
Even on the certified public technician, even on that, getting that certification, that's right, their job there. That's just to know what they supposed to get in, and pretty much what they're looking at. Looking at this piece of paper. I'll miss this.
So do you think that it's worth putting the permit tech through that, or do you think we get by with that?
Look at it and make that determination if it works for you. But just look at it and see what that would do to help him. At least know what's coming in.
Yeah.
Or what's coming in and say, oh, you know what I'm looking at. But I understand that line say, you didn't go to school for the rest of this stuff. You know how to bring in documentation and file it and have it in correct order for our record.
I know Katie went to some class.
Okay.
Maybe a 3-day class, but I have no idea
She went to several, yeah.
what it was.
She was going to get her certification.
I'll look into the curriculum. I still feel strongly that it may not be necessary. But it's definitely worth. It's something I've never heard of before. I didn't think you did. Thank you for coming, guys. It's definitely not something that I put into this budget. And this one, I was mostly thinking of Miss Brenda, and her trying to help clean up the books. But aside from that, but thank you for letting me know. I really, if you could actually help me find it and know what it's called, I really don't know where to start.
I would like to say this, that on the line items and the bills that I paid, they're in there what I was told to put in.
Right.
So, I would like to go through there tomorrow, the book chart account, and make any corrections.
So we're going to have to do next year, definitely. I had wanted to start with the conversation with this, but I didn't want to. The more I thought about it, it might be confusing. So really, there's an entity out there called, not that, the Government Accounting Standards Board. They create a rubric or a style, it's a format, it's an art to them of government financing and how to actually do it. There's actually 7 sections. General fund is your day-to-day operations expenses. Your debt service funds is those loans that we have. Even for the vehicles, is separating funds by debts. And then you have special revenue fund. Special revenue fund doesn't seem like we have one here in the city. I can only think of one that isn't really looked at too often, but it's a fund item that the city council by ordinance creates that regulates. You can only use this specific money for this specific purpose. My experience on something similar like it is parks, for instance. If the city somehow started creating revenue at its parks, And you created a special revenue item for parks, an special expenditure item in parks, that all money collected by parks shall go to said fund, and said fund can only be spent on parks. It's a strict rule that the government carves out from the rest of the budget. Otherwise, it will just go into the slush fund of the general fund. But we're not too into that yet. We have capital funds that we should probably create. Those are expenditures that typically have a longer, items that have a longer lifetime than a year. So if you bought a car, that's a capital expense, and make a capital fund. But having a general fund utility fund is kind of wonky. It doesn't really make much of a difference if we're just paying it out back. We could put it all together in one, but these are government finance practices that we should consider applying next year, and how Brenda brought up. Well, Dell's told to do this. This really spells it out, cleans up our messy bookkeeping.
We need standard fund, that's what you're talking about.
And it's,
No questions, it's right there in black.
that's right. I didn't come up with these standards. A international group did. This is beyond us. A lot of people with a lot of experience and a lot of education already developed the standard, and it's us to learn it and apply it. That's right. And if you talk to another city who applies the standards, you both are speaking the same language. Proprietary funds, those are like utilities. Those are revenues. It's revenue, business-like expenses and revenues. You have your fiduciary funds. Those are like the issue we had with the IRS. It's basically the city's been trusted with a certain block of money, and we agreed to pay it out appropriately and responsibly. The IRS issue, not paying our taxes, that would have gone into our fiduciary fund, and we would have seen it come out to the IRS. But I would recommend down the line, once we figure out our bookkeeping better, that we readjust our bank accounts to match the GASB format. Is there any other questions, guys? Frankly, I've populated most of this conversation, and I feel bad that I've been taken away from everyone. But
We appreciate you explaining it all to us and simplifying it for us for sure. A lot of numbers on those pages, thumbing through it. I mean, looks great to me. There's a few of those items there that I do agree with Chief on that definitely need to be adjusted. And I can come through more and look into other departments as well this week. But this is the preliminary draft budget that was due. So the next steps from here is to set a
public hearing.
We're
going to do.
You got to set the tax.
Right.
Tax rate. You're going to have a public hearing for the tax rate.
Right. That'll all be done in the same public hearing. The tax rate and our proposed budget. Hopefully, we have a line of speakers who have carefully criticized and evaluated and scrutinized every detail of the budget. Fingers crossed. But if we don't, then it'll be a pretty short meeting. But continue revising this. It's going to define the city's operation for the next year. And I hope that this format, we're able to get a clear image of our actual operations and our actual expenditures.
So are we leaving the tax rate the same?
No. We're increasing it by the 3% total value. So it's jumping to 0.76, which is a $20,000 gain in property tax. It's pretty nominal, the difference. In the grand scheme of things, it's just 3%.
Pretty nominal, we put the big enough last.
I think it was 75.75 last year, so if it's 76 or 78.
7.6. I think it's 7.6.
So
But if
essentially
if
the same.
we could keep it at the same rate, and we will lose $20,000. But that would again cut us out of that safety cushion.
So,
What's that like?
Is that the no? Let me bring it up.
That's what I recall seeing too, was 78. Still, it was 75, 78,
Say this year, next thing, it'll be $1.50.
maybe. I'll get my water part.
While he's looking that up, there's a question. So council has been posted position 27 to
Thank you.
35. What would be, recommendation on proposed budget is at 27?
Yeah.
Not getting any applications, or
One background I'm working on, when she was coming in,
We said that DOE depends on experience, on your, that's your range, I mean, if they're a fairly young officer, I mean, it's at your discretion, but I mean, what'd you put Swacky at? 2950. And so, but he's also been at the city 8+ years, 9 years.
That was a recommendation of the mayor, and I bet y'all didn't know, to be honest. I would have given way more. That's what happened. And, I think that's a fair salary, and I call that a temporary while I see what comes in from the other applicant.
so you let yourself run into.
Mhm.
So that's right. Thank you. I really appreciate you bringing that up because I forgot to incorporate that into this conversation. The proposed increase does not meet the resolution or ordinance that was passed by council a few months ago. The minimum being 76.
That was the top. 70, it was 70, y'all voted 76,440 to be the max.
Max.
The max. And the lowest is 58,440. But of course, I posted a little bit less. In this case, I had somebody come out of the academy and things like that. You need to give me some time, maybe 90 days, and get things better to that. And that's why I posted less.
That proposed officer, this is their taxable value of almost 89,000, paying them at $27,000 an hour. It's this dark blue line. I don't have this to council because this has been still messed with, and it's not as detailed in the budget, but just every specific line. The vacant position for the police officer is $27 an hour. Their taxable value is 58 or 59,000, which I guess stays in that range. Is that not right?
The range down the highway now is about 60. Blue River is going to 60. Holland, we know is 60 plus.
Yeah.
We know what Holland is at. That's why we also want, I think he's making 64 or something, 68. The next place, we'll see that.
How many officers do they have?
Like 3 right now.
Well, it's not like they're probably fully staffed, aren't they?
Yes, it
No.
Well, before they just had chief and one
You're
officer.
asking that question now.
is.
Did they have two?
Even though they're at 3 and they budgeted for 4, you're still going to, even though the value's higher,
Yeah.
it's not like they have an abundance of positions to just hand out to everybody.
Yeah, they just come steal from us. But, I mean, it's okay. I was thinking a range of, and we talked about this, I was thinking a range of about 60. And that was consistent of the area. I think that was $27.48.
So at $20, sorry for all the messy numbers. for taxable value, there's a difference between this proposed column here. This is not how much the city's paying. It's actually more, but this is basically their take home. This is what they take home. So $28 an hour. This is what they take home. Does that sound to everybody, or what's everybody else's mind on what should the police officers be paid at the starting level?
It's not what we think, it's what the market's deciding.
Yeah.
The market's going to that others.
Because we could still leave it at that. We'll still be okay in that sponge. It's not going to kill us. Us trying to be a bit conservative.
Which I'm okay with. Me and him talked about this Friday. I'm okay with. But like I said, I gave him the information Friday, but I had from other departments, I'm giving you guys the same thing.
Yeah.
Like we was okay with what's there.
I mean, but we still gotta stay with what's competitive out there.
That's right.
That's what we need to do to be competitive. And still not be too competitive.
Yeah.
I don't see how that's helping.
So
Just the reason we brought that.
yeah, no, thank you. This is big. So we would pay $77,000 per starting employee for the police department, including benefits, retirement, the federal tax that we got to pay. It all amounts to this. We could add to it. It's not going to bust us.
Which
The dollar difference is not going to.
Yeah,
We can do it.
I think we need to raise it up to that 28, to the
Yes, ma'am.
61,000. I really do. And that gives you 61.
That's
61. But that still gives you a little room to play with.
That means you have to start with that.
yeah.
But at least it gets the people coming in,
Yeah.
knocking on the door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why we moved it up to start with.
Yeah.
So do we want to raise it? Because this seems to be the bare minimum, right, Chief? So give you a ceiling of,
So don't go as high as 61,000. Depending on the qualification and things like that.
well, instead of thinking of the ceiling, we also got to think about the floor, minimum.
That's what we think about. That's where our party is, our party somebody is.
Yeah.
And then if everybody else is paying 28, we go 27, we ain't gonna get nobody.
So again, if you put someone at 31 maximum, they're making the same as our sergeant,
And that's not fair. He's been here 8
and so we either raise the sergeant, but it's got to scale correctly.
I can be honest. Like I said, I'm working on one I'm probably gonna finish. And hopefully I have but hopefully I'll finish the background without going into personnel. But I'm looking at his is probably gonna be about 50. So I think at the 60, we're good at the 60 with the applicants I have now. It doesn't mean that I can't come back to the council and ask for an amendment, saying, hey, this is what I have. Or you want to put it down. It's up to
Yeah.
you. But I want to be fair to y'all, because y'all made the number.
Let's think
Between
it's
this
already
and
approved, let's leave it in there.
What if we just go ahead and put it in? It doesn't mean that's what you have to
Yeah.
start with. If you got them, at least a fine.
But 76,440, that's we all have that.
Yeah, they ain't gonna get that.
You know what I mean? But we do have that posted on TML as that. You know, I started getting some applicants, and then some started going other places.
Somebody SWAT certified, maybe we might pay them.
But at the same time, then you look at 76,400. I got to get Swarky up there to 76,400.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He has a master police officer license just like I do. Yeah, he has the years experience like I do. And we don't. I mean, so 76,400 is pretty high up there. It's up to you. I mean, I go with what you want, like I'm saying that, you know, I try to work with everybody, like when we talked about, well, so I can get it this time, that one, that, hey, swipe. I need, because if somebody comes in at $58,000, we're good for swiping at a regular officer position at that $29.50. But if I get somebody with a master police officer that's been doing it 20 years and, you know, got a lot of experience in investigation, and it just goes, okay, maybe I need to bring me in at 64, 65,000. Same time, so I can ask that same thing, but in investigations, because I did all the investigation, that get him trained in that, and as a supervisor, he moves in that.
But that doesn't mean just because you bring somebody else in and they're negotiating up front with you and they come in at 64,000, that doesn't mean that you have to raise your other guy up to 64,000. I mean,
It does.
it doesn't.
He has a master, he has a.
I understand that, but you're negotiating a new hire. It's just like, let's say I go to work at, what's this place you work, the glass company, Pro Glass, and I go in there and I negotiate, you know, what I'm hiring right now. Jesse been there 18 years. I go in there right now and I come in at more than he's making, and I'm a new guy and I don't know jack squat about it. But I negotiated my rate up front with the hiring personnel, and I got my rate. I mean, yeah, it's not fair to Mr. Jesse, but it's what I negotiated.
But that's called morale.
You're complicating things.
That makes morale.
I'm
Jesse
complicating things. I'm
goes,
just real
you know
live.
what? Have a good day. So now I got a new, somebody I negotiated with, that now I got Jesse, morale is completely down. As soon as he found out he made that kind of money, that officer,
And
Jesse,
you know they
started to
find
look
it.
everywhere else. I mean, that's just, I'm running my police department, I keep morale high. And this is the reason I have kept officers 8+ years. Because I try to be fair to each one of them. Not because I'm gonna bring
Well, I'm
somebody
not
in.
saying it's
You
not.
see what I'm saying?
I mean, I'm not saying it's but I'm just saying that you're not obligated, or the city's not obligated, and the department's not obligated to, just because you bring somebody else in at this rate to get them here, to negotiate with you up front, doesn't mean that the next guy's, or the guy that's currently there is, I mean, if that's the case, then
What should happen in that case, if we have to go to that level to get people in here, then we need to look at everybody's salary.
and that's what we've done already. But
I thought we agreed to give.
Just like Joaquin wanted way more than what I gave him the temporary, I'm calling it temporary. He wanted way more. You say negotiation, he negotiated way more than that. But I wanted to be fair to the city administrator and the mayor that said 29 to 30. So I went 29. So he did negotiate way higher, I'm gonna be honest with you. But him trusting me said, hey, hold on.
I mean, obviously, I mean, everybody's gonna ask for, you know, I mean, he knows what
the council.
he knows what the council approved and what the ceiling was.
Yeah.
Of course, he's gonna ask for more,
Mhm.
but at the same time, I mean, what was he before?
He was like at 20.
20 or
Yeah.
21? I mean, you got $9.50 raise.
Yeah, he got a good rate. I mean, you're right.
It's not bad for,
So, Andrew,
an hour.
Yes, ma'am.
It's like taking on a whole other job.
about employees, okay? Are we doing a code raise, or are we just doing raise?
It's
Not a COLA.
not a COLA.
Not a
So I'll show you percentages here. Some of these percentages may seem. That's scary me.
Somebody scream.
What is that? Oh,
Oh, I thought it was a cricket.
I thought someone let in a
Didn't
frog.
that send your ear into outer space?
But is that a common thing for chiefs to make noise? That was?
That's why I took it out.
Wow.
My stars.
Well, so some percentages may seem exaggerated. But that's that intentionally as well. I'm not afraid to show these numbers because some of those guys were getting very much lowball,
Low.
and
And that's something we've been concerned about, Shelton, is the employee pay. Giving them
I'm
something,
telling you, today's market, they can't survive.
yeah, giving them
So,
something that's, you know,
I did color code these a bit. So notice how I didn't this blue, light blue color. Thank you for letting me know I have a pointer. This is awesome. Light blue colors is administration. Is city administrator, permits clerk, municipal judge, city clerk, municipal treasurer. Notice that The only person really getting a raise is Brenda. It's about a 5% raise.
Thank you.
Police officers, you could ignore these two values. The chief is getting a 6% raise. This number is really wrong because now Swatsky's at 29.50. So this is more like maybe 6. We could play with that here. 5%. So from this 29.50 to 31 is 5%. I already planned next year's raises at a 3%, and this is what it looks like. This is why you see some of these numbers change. Anyways, this gray color is your electrical department. The new staff did not get raises. Miss Alice got a 5.10% raise. So she went from $1 up essentially. This light blue color is the Public Works Department. We see a 4.33% raise, 13% raise from 1850 to 21. Here's one of those examples that I was concerned about, where staff was making $15 an hour, so I brought it up to that minimum standard of $20 an hour.
Sure.
31%. Here is Shane. He got a $3% raise, just about a little bit more, but these are the proposed workers that Jacob had talked to me about, bringing them to 20. I'm actually going to bring them more up to 18. One of them is just getting started, so there's going to be some fiddling with that. But I definitely want to give some respect to the folks who've been here about what,
Sure.
5 years, 6 years, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And just because if we didn't get a couple of those last year.
Yeah.
Or any couple of those, you know, that we wanted them to have something that they've got to have, I mean, $15 an hour.
Yeah.
Well, how do you go work at McDonald's for
Right.
more than that? And these guys are getting down in the hole and
Right.
hot water and just
It's not easy. Not at all.
freezing cold weather and they're down in there and just steam coming out. I mean, it's
That's what I'm talking about. That
That's-
training budget offering, like, hey, go get certified.
okay.
Go get certified.
This is something we've talked about too.
Yes, ma'am.
Derek? Bill? Jimmy's ready to retire.
Mhm.
He's over there. They will never, we have begged, and Jacob the same way. They will never let it go.
Which is almost heartbreaking, but
Yeah.
given their age and
I wish there was some way we could walk Jacob through it. You know?
Yeah.
Because he is top notch.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
yeah, I've heard really good things about
He's
most of the guys. Yeah,
top-notch. Yeah.
I've never heard of any kind of grievances against them.
And if somebody has plumbing issues or pipe issues or whatever,
Yeah.
who do I call? On Facebook, they always say, call Jacob Gay, just, you know.
Yeah.
And he's real fair on pricing and, you know.
Yeah.
I wish there was some way that we could help him with his license.
That's so we got to be a little bit.
But Derek and them, they'll never, they've been offered and offered and offered and offered. They never just never have.
We could
But
always.
you know, these two people you're talking about.
Yeah.
That may be something.
They may be
They
interested
would be
in it, but
interested in.
I want to leave that in there. Yes, Chief.
One thing I noticed is missing in the budget numbers that you need to look at too,
Mm-hmm.
the certification pay. That's in there, but I don't think it's in the numbers. Also, the holidays, needs to go in there too. Because they're paying for holidays.
Oh.
So you have to calculate the holiday.
Wouldn't that be a part of the overtime? Would be the holiday
Pay
pay?
for every holiday. So every officer's working every holiday. They all work the 84 hours.
If they work the holidays.
You know, incorrect. So everybody worked 84 hours. So they get the 12 hours. because they already have 84 hours. It's not if they work that day.
Oh, you're talking about,
It just where it falls at. Because you still get the holiday. Everybody gets the holiday, regardless. But the officer does not take off. But this officer might already hit 84 hours.
Yeah.
It might not be on his day, but he still gets 12 hours.
so he works 84 hours, he has Christmas off, and he actually gets 96 hours that pay period. Being,
Well,
Then he's already did his time.
it would just be 8 hours, wouldn't it, for the holiday?
It's always been 12. I always questioned that, but because they work 12-hour shifts, they do not work 8-hour shifts.
That's not how that's.
So it's always been that way.
Supposed to be,
You know,
That ain't how that's supposed to work.
Yeah,
That's not fair to your other employees.
but it always felt like, hey, it fell on your day, and then the next year it did fall on the other officer's day. But it's always been 12, in payroll, in the whole year. But it's like, I always thought it wasn't fair, because I would think that you work, it should be, you work 12 hours, you should get paid 12
You're
hours.
sitting on the holiday.
And the one at home should get paid 8, in my opinion, but, it always was said to all the councils, but.
so, these orange items were budgeted in. These are your overtime.
Yeah.
I did only put police at 90, but now with what you have now told me, I'll look into it and sponge it up a bit. But,
My problem with that, chief, is we never know when the officers are here. We don't know their schedules.
Okay, we'll start that today. My contract states that I give you the schedule, you and the city administrator, and I continue to do that when I have a full staff. So what's the question?
That's what I'm saying is,
You have a schedule.
we don't know the police officer's schedules. We don't
My
know-
contract states that I give you a contract, I will give you a schedule, correct?
And when's the last time I had a schedule?
When last day you had full staff?
And then there's,
I've been 140 hours.
they got staff, right?
is that so much of a
So I just
budgetary
told 12.
concern?
I work all the time, go 24/7. So what's the question? Am I not here? 140 hours.
All right, so
Schedule.
we'll plan for the holidays inside the overtime. And maybe create a separate item here that considers one officer working all of those off, that matches our HR handbook, right? Create a separate item that matches the HR handbook with, say there's 10 holidays, I know there's more or less, but we'll put in an extra 80 hours of that guaranteed overtime, which is they're getting paid at a rate of $1.50, right?
No, just the regular salary.
Oh. They're not getting,
Don't get overtime, anything like that. You get regular pay. So if you did 84, you get $12 a day, you get $12 a day.
I see, okay. Well, then we'll do that for matching whatever the HR handbook says and put it for police only. I don't know if we need to do that for the utility staff. Unless anybody has any difference with that. No?
And while we're talking about it, I need to put officers on call because they're available 24/7 for Bell County. So I guess the mayor wants to talk about it, that we need an on-call pay, just like public works.
I was wondering what that on call was. Could you elaborate on that?
On calls. So weekly, it rotates. One of your utility personnel takes on the on-call phone, and any calls that come in after hours, they answer and they respond to it. And if it's something that can wait till the next morning, it does. If it's a major blowout or anything, they call in the other guys. And then they're paid so much a day for Monday through Friday, and then the weekend they're paid more.
So
So I think it's $50 on the weekend a day,
is
and
the,
maybe 25 a night or something. I don't know what the fee is, but it's,
is the wise thing to do than just take the average of the public works crew, put it in that on-call pay, and just time it out? And because there's no telling who's
Well,
gonna
I
pick up
think
the phone.
No, I mean, 'cause they're overtime. If they do go out and respond, they do get overtime.
Hmm.
They'll mark down 1 hour to go check water leak on Bellevue.
Right.
But they automatically get the $25 a night, Monday through Friday, and then X amount of, I think it's $50 a week,
Because
Saturday, Sunday.
I did only put a budget of $200 hours for the fiscal year of overtime. I'm not trying to bust the budget.
Yeah.
Before we had 2,080 hours of whole employee and just overtime. That seems like poor management to me.
Yeah.
But I'll just hire someone else. And same one for electrical. This rate is actually calculated as 66% of Kevin or Class B linemen, and then 33% of Dallas overtime, which gives you a weighted favor towards Kevin, given his license and the reality of
I'll
the
just
nature.
say that 9 times out of 10 on your electric overtime, call outs, after our call outs, both guys are gonna respond.
Oh. Okay.
That's where it's supposed to go.
All right.
Kevin may go, or Dallas may go first since he's living in town. He
Mhm.
may go first if it's just a line fuse on a pole or something, and it's obvious what the situation was White Blue, then he may refuse it. But 9 times out of 10, he's gonna wait until Kevin gets
So
here.
should,
He's fairly.
Yeah. should we then just create 2 separate, one for Class B, one for groundsmen, overtime, both at 108 at their own respective rates?
It's probably fair.
Okay. All right.
So that's kind of my question, whether you care for all citizens, we have to be on, not me, on salary, currently on that. But also that have to be on call when I can't be available, should they not get paid on call, like all the other departments? That's my question.
Do we not rely on the sheriff's office for?
No,
They're only gonna respond for priority ones, which are like armed robbery and progress or something still silly, you know.
the sheriff has already sent us a
They
letter.
sent, they sent letters to the city saying, because they're understaffed also.
Yeah.
So,
Sure. And so, what is an example of on-call service that where nobody's on duty?
Meaning they have to be available to take the call, can't have a beer, can't do anything, can't go out of the area, can go hour away, and they'll be available to take a call and come to town.
What is the situation that would prompt someone to actually respond to something?
Domestic, if they get here, they only here for only 30 minutes, they will call me and they need me to come in. I get called at 4 o'clock in the morning from the fire.
Yeah.
I'm getting called all times of night.
Right.
You have to come in here, sometimes outside, I'm coming in,
Mhm.
depending on the call, I can take it by phone, but there's calls all the time at night. I can
So-
come in.
A fire that nobody from the county is going to help. We're alone.
Well, they're not gonna stay long. They come over here, but they call in for officer to come. That's per what their letter state.
Wow.
So when this is,
they'll respond, but they're gonna want BPD to release some of this ASAP
Okay.
as soon as they can get here. And so we do need to have an on-call,
Yeah, that's what I'm getting
line
to.
for a police officer.
So, how many hours of on-call do you think we've got?
Because right now, Chief is taking the blunt of those. And
Yeah.
He's responding himself.
You know, I looked at, the support of the police department. That's why I'm frustrated. People want about a schedule. The town has always been taken care of, and I apologize for that. But again, you went straight to a schedule, and I always take care of anything you call me. And it's only been me for 2 months on this. Look at it, 40-something hours, sometimes 160. Come on, dude. The support from 2019, when we had public service had $571,000 budget for a police department. Now we down to, then it went down to 403, then 353. then 377. The support of public service has been lacking. So, I mean, I've been asking for help, and I appreciate in this budget, I'm starting to get help. But that's why I lost so many people, and that's why I'm so frustrated. So I apologize, I have to get loud. But saying schedule, you know I give you a schedule, but you ask. But I just want to say.
So on call, should we do what, 300 hours? Is that reasonable?
Honestly, I don't know. I mean, when we do the schedule, when we get full staff, it's a little bit easier because then we can look at how many hours won't be covered.
Yeah, how many
And that's all
gaps?
we're looking at then.
Yeah.
So we're only looking at the hours that's not covered.
So assuming 4 police officers, off the top of your head, a rough estimate.
Rough estimate, let's say six hours,
6 hours down,
6 hours a day.
6 hours
That's
a day.
That's
6 times.
But like what they do with public works, is you have a certain amount. You know, I don't know what that amount is.
Yeah.
You have a certain amount just to be on call. Now, if you come out, that's when you get paid overtime. But at the same time, it needs to be out there. Like with us, listen, 84 hours. They do not get overtime until after 85.5
Right.
in public service.
So if they did an on-call and it's the beginning of their work week, for instance, it's their Monday. They've only worked in that 12 hours. And then they do an on-call for 5 hours. Let's say 8 hours. Just close it at 20. Would you then flex their time for responding to that on-call? No? So,
If they work extra, they need to be paid extra, they keep the regular hours up too.
okay,
Can't punish them for coming in when you need them.
you're right. I see that point. So if we do, like you said, rough estimate, 6 hours downtime with 4 police staff, 2 patrol, 1 sergeant, and the chief. And obviously the chief has to take care of the administrative duties of the police department. Times 2, it's 1 pay period. About
And when you look at it, it's already, that amount is another officer, to be honest. And that's the reason why I asked, you know, what I asked for.
Yeah.
Because I've seen that myself.
Yeah.
So it's like,
So with 4 officers, would you need something?
that's good. Right? That's the reason I asked.
4 patrol officers, not including sergeant.
That's including sergeant.
So if we have 3 police officers,
That's what you're asking for, is 2 more, right? That'd be total 4.
Well, what he has in there is, 1 more added, that frozen position. But if we did what I asked for, that would be good.
because there we have 3 patrol officers, sergeant and chief, to be a 5-man police department.
Now, that is 24/7 coverage unless somebody call out or something like that, which I cover. So do that in.
And each of these guys, so Swansky's at 31. But we're firm on starting everybody at 61, right? For 20 an hour.
And just tell the council, what that shift will be 6 p.m., 6 a.m. 6 p.m., 6 a.m.
Like the numbers that was gonna be.
Yeah.
That's fine.
And I'll be here from 7 to 3. I won't have open. That'll be on the schedule.
With the combined police staff, that's about 438,000. That would probably put us really close to that zero number on over revenues over expenditures.
Electric department, we can't do more.
In expenditures, personnel, or
The total.
oh,
Okay.
so we have Dallas.
You have the hour for one of those, overtime.
Let's see. I did overtime mostly on this orange line. So if something is wrong in this column, here's overtime.
You changed Dallas's numbers to from 200 to 28, right? That's his overtime number, right?
This here?
Yes.
Yeah, but this rate,
What I'm trying to get at is why don't we have Dallas an hour and then 28 hours overtime? That's 40 hours a week overtime.
wait, say it again?
Is that overtime out there? You got it 2,080 hours. Or is that regular?
This is annual. Everybody has,
Right, I know 28 is a year.
right.
So, on the go, you were saying that's the overtime. If you had Dallas at 200 out there, all day,
Where?
right there.
This is 221 an hour. Hourly pay. Is this getting updated? Yeah, it is. I'm really sure, Shelton. I'm a little confused.
Why's the on-call pay at 9,900 hours?
This?
Yeah.
Oh, this is something that was. I did not play with this item at all. This is not formatted for anything. I have not put in anything related to on-call hours, and this column appears to me was meant to be for public works only. Since the electrical department is kind of a new entity in the city, this was produced probably around the time that they got brought on. So for the time being, I would ignore this peach color because it's not really accounting for anything. The overtime hours that I planned for are these orange colors.
Okay. I got you.
Okay.
Adrian, there was something else.
Yes, ma'am.
Clayton just sent me a message that asked about the library. You've got the salary.
That's right. So part of the reason I was calling for an accountant on staff is because I'm not sure if I did bring it up earlier, but for whatever reason, in our expenditures on fund view, we've assigned expenses to the library fund, even though we didn't budget for it. So is that is actuals what we said we'd do this fiscal year. We said zero, but we still somehow managed to spend $47,000 to someone in the library.
I think it kind of transferred from the year because we used to have a staff and a half at the library.
Yeah.
It was, Ms. Bartlett and then,
Alice.
Alice.
Alice was in the library.
Right.
Then we had to shut down.
So I don't know who truly got this $47,000. That might have been Alice. But that's the thing about not having our expenditures actually assigned to real items in the budget.
So is that $52,000, you can take it out and put somewhere else?
You already
This
did
year?
that.
Yeah, I've already considered here the right side
Oh, okay, I got you.
zeros.
Okay, Gotcha.
So what we could look at, I mean, adding another $250,000 additional cost to the police department does kind of put us in the middle of a pinch. It's not to say that it's not doable, because I still was very, very, very much generous in engineers. For instance, here, we claim to have spent this $473,000. And the time that I believe Joseph was here, they spent $260,000. The budget that Myra passed was $5,000. And so I put $200,000, really using the data from the 2022, 2023 budget and this year's actuals. But this very well may be wrong, and this may be less. Maybe it's $100,000 less. Engineers are expensive, but I
Expensive.
don't know if it's that expensive.
If I heard you right, we budgeted 5,000, and if it's right, we spent 468.
Over.
That should have been all out of them, that place. Wow.
Yeah,
You know,
We should go over budget item that far.
and
That's
so
somebody knowing about it.
setting this item is incredibly low for any engineer. Good luck even reviewing a single street and not going over $5,000. I mean, if I set this number to $1 million, we would look like heroes keeping this at 50%.
Oh, yeah.
But if I set this at that low, we look like criminals. You know, that's this. What we set as a standard is only our intention, but it's not meant to be seen as the. It's all perspective, and so even though it might go over, that's even this 126. That's pretty realistic. Like, yeah, you missed it. You missed the bullseye, but it's not 9,000% over. You know,
that has got to be, now, I don't know where the money is, but that's got to be off of those grants
has to be.
that we had to pay,
Mm-hmm.
and then we get reimbursed. Now, where that money is, I don't know.
Exactly.
I don't know. But it has to
But we do spend quite a bit in contractual services, which I'm hoping to really reduce by a significant amount to adjust for things like police and utilities department. Is it the council's interest right now? My head's still on getting the chief at full service, getting him to this point. I think that should maybe be our fiscal goal, at least, to not having to worry about this on-call pay. And it's probably more cost-effective to do something like this and blow up the on-call fund.
Well, I'm gonna figure it out. How much is the on-call that it costs us?
Yeah.
As opposed to, I mean, I don't know. I don't have the pencil to that. But how much does that?
And, you know, for the next conversation is to figure out if you guys agree today how to get to this point. What is everybody's thoughts? Do we want to get to a full service level, or are we okay with 2 police officers or 3? But it doesn't sound like we can go to just 1 additional police officers. What does everybody think?
Well, that one officer doesn't fix it.
When we talked about all the money from fixed officers, we talked about people, that's what we talked about. And we need to go to at least, comparison of that.
Okay. Guys, what do you guys think?
Because we're not getting protection from the cat.
Yeah, that's exactly the issue. That's a really big issue. Thoughts? Chief? Any additional input on that?
You have to bring the stuff to their attention. And also be fair to them.
Right.
And that's what I'm gonna go back to, for me, you know.
I understand that. Well, if we do bring officers at 31, well, that's all right. Are you okay with Schwatsky staying at 31 and starting officers at 28?
I thought that's what we had.
Okay, I'll put that in.
So we have to bring him up to 31, right? He's not there yet, right?
My goal, my goal as first-time supervisor, is gonna need to train him first-time supervisor. And then it goes to that point of being, go to sergeant. But, you know, he has to work his way to that, not just give it to you. I don't believe in my department to give you something.
Okay.
And can you give us some officer, $28 for that?
We can put it there, and then I can come back to the council if we, since I do that.
Okay.
That don't work. We just have to go to the next level.
Very well.
That's a problem, it ain't just here.
Yeah.
It's
It's
everywhere.
everywhere. I mean, Austin has ads hanging up on their city
Oh,
City
yeah,
Police
they're very
Department.
good.
Please come.
I was going to be a cop, I was leaving my brother from the department, but I was awesome.
Right.
I was even shot a little less like that.
All right. Any other thoughts, guys?
On your training.
Yep.
One of our biggest nemesis here is our billing.
Is that what?
Billy?
Billing.
Yeah.
It's not accurate.
Yeah.
It's costing us money that we can address a lot of these issues.
That's right. I mean,
So we need to either get somebody in there that can do it, or get somebody in there that's trained. Get some training for the person.
that would be really good to do, especially now that we got that rate study coming in. I'm not sure when to expect that, but we could only imagine they're going to go up.
Rates, yes.
That rate adjustment is not being considered since I don't have anything to base it off of. But if you notice here, we've collected $973,000. I'm sorry, $1,140,000. How much you collected, how much you spent. And opposed to our water, it looks like we've collected maybe more water than we have electric and bills. But my understanding is
Expense on the water, what is that about?
expense on the water.
The expense on the water, AOT?
That's where their engineering fees
Okay,
are.
okay.
the $500,000.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's see about the utilities and revenue on that.
Now, something that, I don't know if you're aware of, we have a deal where we're not partners. You know, if you're having problems paying your bill, you come in, you talk to y'all, and you sign a contract.
Yeah.
Okay? Once you break that contract, it's due in full.
Yeah.
It's over.
I'm used to that. Yeah.
Okay. That's not always being upheld. And like every month, you come time, cut them off. I'm telling you, they'll come in and pay.
Yeah.
And their son,
Don't let them get behind you.
their son, $4,000.
Yeah.
She doesn't have a regular job. She has a job, but it's not a lower general, okay? But she will come in with money.
They can't pay 1,000 this month, they can't pay 2,000.
Well, right now with the weather, I'm just saying,
You gotta
I
be
have
careful.
asked Alice this, and because the weather is over the heat index, she won't cut them off, or she says by law, we can't cut them off.
I don't know.
So,
I mean, I don't know.
Well, we could always consult with our city attorney and putting a lien against them.
The PUC won't allow you to cut them off when it's over a certain degree.
Yeah,
PUC won't allow you, even if you do cut them off and they appeal to the PUC will make you turn their utilities back on until it's decided.
Wow.
Well, we could always,
And it is.
if we're not
above
paying their
100
fees,
this
we could
week.
always take them to court. If we're running a deficit of, say, like $100,000,
I mean, there has been so many people over the years that have gone off owing us a ton of money.
Yeah.
That I think if we could get
You want people to find out, we give away more money than we bring in.
a ton of money, that's kind of disheartening, you know?
That's why when you come in here and say we're gonna raise the tax, I'm so sensitive to it, because if we collected what we were owed, we wouldn't have to raise taxes on the
That's
people
right.
that are paying the bills.
Right.
It's not fair.
yeah. I understand that and really sympathize with it. We could always
Yeah,
cut
we
it.
stay in business
We could
too.
always stay in the no new revenue rate. But when we're getting to the really fine lines, it really gets messy. But if you guys want to stay in that rate, personally, my policy is it's not my city. I don't enjoy the benefits that you guys have to make decisions on. I don't pay towards the taxes of the city. I don't pay towards my own salary here. If it's whatever you guys feel best. If you feel that we have to make it work without raising the taxes, then that's what we have to do.
I think, I mean, you don't want to tax people completely out, but it's all you hear is, why is the city doing this, why is the city doing that? All of that takes money, and that's where it comes from.
Yeah.
That and our utility, water and sewer, that's how things operate. And if you don't go up just even this little bit, but I get what you're saying. Bell County, which, Chad, didn't they say they are collecting a little bit, and y'all got a check or something? It's like, it's not enough money for them to deal with.
It's still half-assed. They sent the list this week of the upcoming auction that's got one Bartlett property on it in the September auction. When we know there's 30+ delinquent
Yeah.
we
lots
collected that
on the bill.
$19,000.
I dealt with a similar issue. We need to talk with our attorney because we can push it ourselves.
So how is Wilco on taxes? Are they better?
A lot better.
Are they?
They gave us a report about how much they collected. And yeah, the percentage was like 95%, and Bell's maybe 90, maybe even 88%. There's clearly a difference in the way we collect taxes.
And so the people who are paying the property tax, you'd imagine, you're pretty typical.
and you know, part of not just taxing, it's actually providing the service at a quality level. And making sure that we're accounting for funds correctly and we're able to find records appropriately and that permits are getting done in an efficient manner. Not to say that they've been as great as I got here, because we were lacking of staff, and frankly, I've dropped the ball on a few of them, I'll be honest. But, I did my best, what I could do with everything I need to do here at the city. But it is entirely my goal to make sure that the services they provide is in my purview, that is as accurate and, efficient and conscientious of the consumer and the taxpayer. That's ever since I got here, my goal is to ensure that services are getting delivered, that our contracts are being enforced. My big thing is policy. Make sure the policies are being applied here, inside and outside correctly. And I think if the policy spells it out, I think we'll be happy if we're at least being consistent with it. Maybe raising the taxes is not necessary. Does it help? Yes, it does.
How much is it changing this time?
In total,
Per $100, I mean, how much is it?
Shelton was right. It was raising to 0.78, which
And we were at 75.7.
we were 0.75. And according to my estimation of it, excuse me just a minute, let me find it real quick. That's about a $20,000 difference. So, is there?
$40,000 right now, but we raised them pretty good last year, and everybody got hit with the new school taxes because of the new school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people around here get taxed a lot.
Yeah.
And we're really not getting a whole lot more.
I mean, yeah, look at that. Here's how much we collected between 2023 to the 2024. That's what, $240,000 jump, just about. And did services get all that better? I don't know.
Not really. Not really.
It's all going to stuff go bad.
Yeah. It's just bad. Making sure maybe the problem, money wasn't always the problem, maybe it's just direction.
I was just fixing to say, we've got Jacob now directing that out there. I think people are seeing the change.
Yeah.
I just think I think you're going to see a change.
Yeah.
With that. There was no direction. And supervision.
Not like
So we'll see what we could do. But again, if council wants to stay with the no new revenue rate, we very well can. And it's just going to cut us a bit here. Maybe even hurt us in the INS, the interest in sinking fund. The reason this has jumped up so much is because of the new debt the city took on for the payout of the IRS. That's why there's a disproportionate amount of increase between this past year fiscal year and what is being proposed now. That I would say should stay the same.
Should have extra million or something.
Extra.
See, we got the meters still in place.
Yeah, that hurts.
Lose $1 million a year on the meters.
Wow. When did we install those meters?
This is just the man meters that have nothing to do with putting in new meters, it just wasn't in.
Oh, wow.
The multipliers were,
Yeah, there's a multiplier.
the multiplier, they had the multiplier set at 3 when there's no such thing as a multiplier of 3. The lowest multiplier in town is 40, I believe.
Wow.
We had some
Well,
at 320.
That may itself need to call for
One
that.
at 480 for school.
Yeah.
The school's at 480, the multiplier on the school is 480, and we weren't even plugging a multiplier in at the school.
Huh.
School's supposed to get a special rate, man, not that special. That's special. I thought you were
And then
paying
one
them.
meter wasn't even,
They got one building over there that I know of that's not even metered.
Yeah.
The building with all the welders and the
Wow.
CNC machine.
Well, and all the more reason to call a mid-annual fiscal review of the budget. It's not required, but with findings like that, it makes all the difference.
well, so,
So, you know, that was on 13 meters. I can't sit here and think that all our buildings are correct now, until we got those 13
Yeah.
meters. If it's a mistake like that, I'll know, you know, there's other mistakes in there, that are costing some money.
Yeah.
Some of them may be costing them every month.
So,
It ain't just electric.
or when we go to a water
Sewer.
meter, or when we go to a water meter, and I saw this firsthand, and it's full of water. But they have a bill. It says A on it for actual. Well, how'd you do that?
Hmm.
I mean, did you just pull a number out of there? They now have a pump.
mhm.
They can pump that out.
When I saw electric meters, it just grabbed down there.
Yep.
Your second one, check.
Yep.
He saw it,
Interesting.
just make believe those.
Well,
That's why we've had some of these customers call back and just kind of freaking out when they got the utility bill because it's so, yeah. And, you want to do the numbers, the math on it.
Talk about our incomes and taxes. Those meters are our cash register too, and we need to give them just as much importance as we do that tax rate.
that's right.
And make sure it's assessed properly, we're not doing it.
Yeah.
Because if we did that right, we might not have to get a tax rate.
Well, we could always work with the superintendent, talk about performance controls on that, and just have a closer look. Maybe do a little bit less mowing and do a little bit more studies on our actual readings and how we're actually collecting information, and scrutinize our own process a bit further, and create, standards that, how many readings did you do this month? I did 10. I don't know. Just throw numbers out there.
Or,
And then how much are they changing every customer? What's their last bill? What's the rate change? Why did someone's water go up like skyrocket? Or why is someone's rate now suddenly sink so hard?
can you make a notation? You know, hey, there was water standing in this meter. Is it our fault? Is it their fault?
Yeah,
Is there,
That's the first thing we figured out.
yeah, I mean, but you go back and check that.
Yeah.
Whether if it's their problem, it's still leaking water.
Yeah.
You know, my brother lives down in Bulverde,
Yeah.
and their wells, last year, were drying up
mhm.
because of the drought
Yeah.
over there. And when I was there this past weekend, it was 3 people took a shower consecutive, and they were out of water. Now it will fill back up.
Huh.
It'll fill back up, but just 3 showers, and they were out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
So, I mean, it's still, it's, Jacob needs to give us in our deal, what I like to see, always got it with Jim Trudell, is a water loss report.
yeah, I'm used to something like
That's
that.
what he said, utility lights.
Yes,
Include- Including garbage.
yeah,
Housing for years, we not charged for the garbage.
You know what?
really.
Housing.
You know what I heard today? Just blew my mind. I couldn't get involved because I don't know enough yet. But someone was asking to get exempt from trash service. Do you need trash service? Like, it's this much. And my understanding is it's a public health concern to have trash service, not because we want to make money off them, necessarily. It's maybe a neighbor just gets lazy. You don't know how responsible. I don't know how responsible Mr. Luna is, opposed to the mayor. Maybe the mayor just dumps his trash in the front and burns it, and Mr. Luna actually does take it to the dump. But we got to make sure that they're getting the services required in the city. I mean, there's all these things that we need to start evaluating about services that are being delivered and required. You don't want your neighbor to be burning the trash in their backyard. It's dangerous. It smells. Chemicals in the air.
Yeah.
There's so many concerns involved. Exactly. Paints, construction material, indoor improvements.
Yeah, it's a violation of the city ordinance to burn the city.
But making sure that everybody's getting the services required for the city is pretty important. You know, people aren't installing their own private septic tanks to get
On
away
the
from sewer.
application, they have options whether they want that
Really?
service or not, yes.
You
So
see-
is that something we need to take out of there?
That alone
Yeah.
can fix that trash problem or other problems that we're hearing about. The housing.
Well, with
Not
water, I mean, yeah, I mean, I could come in here and say, oh, I want water service, but I don't want sewer service. Well, with water comes sewer.
Right?
I mean,
Mhm.
you put it out. I mean,
That's right.
80% of what you're, pumping out of the faucet's gonna go down the drain, so, yeah, you're using sewer. Trash, yeah, if it's a residence or even a business. Now, if it's a lot with just a utility pole on it, we've got a few of those around. I don't necessarily see a need for the trash can there.
How do we scrutinize them?
Exactly.
Well, if you got construction going on, that's right. You got construction going on, there's not a stupid, obviously, a residential living there, so it should have all this.
Like if you have a vacant building downtown.
Yeah.
There's no
Because
No business
that's the
going on,
thing,
no-
we're paying for those garbage cans.
Yeah.
That there's nobody,
Yeah.
Well, my problem with garbage cans is look, I walk my dog up down the street every day.
Stay out too long.
Well, no,
No, they're everywhere.
you walk by some houses and they got 3 trash cans.
yes, yes.
And I guarantee you, if I came in here and pulled their bill, they're only paying for 1.
Yeah.
Which means the city's paying for the other 2.
Yeah.
Which means I'm paying for the other 2. He's paying for the other 2.
Yeah.
He's paying for the other 2. I mean,
Usually those trash service collectors are, they're a contract, they bill us for how many, each address.
Yeah.
And sure, you just gotta compare it. But again, this is the whole part of scrutinizing our own process. We gotta come up with ways to check ourselves and not just let it go independent.
Well, I've seen on Facebook where Clausen will come in and then somebody will be complaining, well, they picked up my trash can.
they swap them out as they get in bad shape or whatever.
Yeah.
They'll come in and swap them out, but they won't tell you. They'll just the trash guy will come and the guy's coming right behind them and he'll pick up the trash can and usually they're pretty good about putting the new one out. But sometimes it's a totally different truck coming in and put the new ones out.
Only a pickup of the trash bags that we use.
Right.
Yeah, so
And it's not always a new, it's just a new.
Right.
better shape, refurbished.
It's been a
refurb.
It's in better shape than we had.
So, but you may not know this either, housing, we never turn off in housing. I'm not talking about when somebody moves out. They're supposed to call, and I would think that
They don't.
but I would think that the person who's leaving would call you and say, hey, this is my last day. And then we send the guy over to read the meter, and then you start billing housing for it.
Change that, but then they
We usually don't find out until the next person moves in.
Needs to swap
And
over.
so how much,
Needs to
how much
swap
are we
over to a
losing?
house meter. That way the housing is paying for that bill while that unit's vacant. Because they'll go and do a make ready on that unit. They may go in there and, have lights burning and AC burning and paint rigs going and stuff like that. Then all kinds of work in there like they've been reventing.
Well, with something like that, you just gotta treat it like an apartment essentially. You build the whole thing to housing. Housing is your job to collect the bill. That's it. Instead of everybody having their own bill, it guarantees the city's gonna get its money, and it puts pressure on housing to be
We
responsible.
do that on the water. They've got 2 meters over there.
Yeah.
So housing gets a the water bill. The tenants are the only ones getting the electric, and that's where the disconnect is. Tenants, yeah, tenants move out, and then tenants move out, and then they're not calling down here and doing a readout.
Yeah.
And then it's not flipping to the house meter. I mean, you don't even have to pull the meter out. You can just go down there and do a reading.
Yeah. You
And
just,
from this,
yeah.
from 1,775 on until the new tenant comes in and says the utility bill is going to the bill to the house.
Meter in there, they have, right, that's a little building, so they have parties and stuff.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is,
What I'm saying is, we wouldn't even have to charge them to connect to this, it's charged for the kilowatt, which is somebody else.
exactly.
This is not.
Yeah.
It's added to the bill on that other one.
Yeah.
I don't think you want to add it to the bill on the other one.
I mean, it'd be separate, but I mean,
You set up a default account.
Right.
It's a house account.
I will bring that up to the board so that they make sure
Yeah, there has to be a way to
that
say.
Kathy knows this is how we gotta do it.
Well,
She should know.
she needs to follow up with the city also whenever somebody's moving out, because we don't know when people move out. The
We
city,
don't
the
know
Exactly.
city ain't got a
That's
freaking
what I'm
clue when
saying.
somebody moves out.
And they're
So
moving out.
housing
and they're moving
president or
away.
housing management needs to notify the city and say, hey, so-and-so 103 moved out, can y'all please make sure that you do a readout?
I would say, if I was responsible for that bill, I'd be the one calling this that day.
Yeah, you would be, but
Well,
I guess not everybody looks at it, the other responsible for the thing.
well, this board that they have now, they're really watching stuff. Really.
Sounds like a good place to start.
yeah, that'd be simple, wouldn't it?
What's that?
That'd be simple, wouldn't it?
What's,
Them
You
AM,
never remote disconnect, call me when you want it up.
them AMI meters over there now.
Yeah.
Just do the
Knock
whole,
them out today.
do that.
and anything under the rules of housing, you cannot live there without any utilities.
Yeah.
And so, when, in the past, the city's never disconnected, they always called and said, this person is fixing to get disconnected to the office. But I say disconnect.
Well, the thing is, should that kind of,
Unless they won't be responsible for the bill, that's between us and the
But that's just
They'll
what I
not
was
pay the
always
rent,
told.
but they kick them out.
And Jim is now like, cut that crap off, we've got a 2-year waiting list.
Yeah.
We'll get somebody in there that wants
Will pay the bills. That's what I'm saying. I
I
don't know
mean,
if that
you're
kind
only
of,
paying the electric. Your little post office is paid for you, your water, your sewer, your garbage, it's all paid. All
Yeah.
you're paying is the electric and the rent. And you need to be able to keep up with that.
Sounds like a good deal over there. You gotta pay for the electric.
They don't pay my electric money.
That's what's it is. All you gotta do is pay your electric and your rent. Sound like a pretty damn good deal.
HUD went up on that. They went by Williamson County, tax bill, 1 bedroom. If you just go flat rate, it's 507, which I'm not complaining, that's still fine, that's fine.
That's pretty cheap.
But there's no more of those, like people in there just gonna pay $10.
Well, it
That's
should
not,
be.
no. If you go by flat rate, if
Well,
you're in
house,
one
drive a
bedroom,
Cadillac.
everybody pays 507. If you're in a 2-bedroom, it's X amount, and 3 bedrooms, it's X amount. There's no more of that.
Yeah. So about the budget, any other last thoughts? It seems like we've not done, by the way. We're not done. We still have more work to do. It's just a matter of, I've got some feedback from staff, council. Is there anything else anybody wants to add? Concerns, Jesse? Good.
I just want to see him get snapped, that's all. When I see it on Facebook, we got on, we got.
I do, and you
I'll
are
come
too.
to my property, I'll call the city after the fact. It might be 2 days later.
Cálmate.
Just lay out there, see that.
So, can I gather the council real quick?
Yes, sir.
Does any,
Time out.
this police matters right now, what I'm gonna try to work towards making happen. But is that synonymous with everybody's opinion? Trying to get three patrol officers, full service police department?
For that, a long time ago.
Sounds like we have a consensus on it. It's not a legitimate vote, but I just need direction.
Gail, Justin, y'all good with it? Are y'all good with it?
We're not voting on it, he just wants to know if that's the direction we wanted to get on, please.
Okay.
It's a good start.
We already agreed on it months ago, so.
Okay. Well, thank you guys. Right, anytime, give me a call. I'm available anytime you need me. If any last minute thoughts or midnight thoughts, send me a text, send me an email. Call the city phone or city cell phone.
He's up getting called at that time, not calling.
I know where the office is.
Right.
I know where the office is.
Right over there.
Probably have to come sign something right
All right, guys. Well,
there.
Chief, do you have anything else to add? Ms. Brenda?
I'm sorry, I'm good.
Okay. Mayor, concluding thoughts? All right, that's my presentation, guys. Thank you for
Thank you.
bearing with it, and
Good job.
I really appreciate your input.
So no action on item number 1. Appreciate you, Adrian. Future agenda items? Only thing I got is the tax rate hearing and the budget.
Yeah.
Public hearing.
We're moving Myra from secretary for the city and adding
Sorry,
We're
the
good.
signature and moving Myra.
already done.
We've signed it.
We probably need to update the, I don't know,
know.
we can update the city website. I don't know if there's anything on there
Yeah,
about her.
What'd you
I
say?
don't know the
tax rate
login,
hearing?
but yeah, we need to do that. Her name's still there. Yeah, my name's still in the old city too.
What'd you say, tax rate hearing, and what else?
Public
Public hearing on the budget.
Public hearing.
I, if there's time, I might do that permit presentation, updating council about what we've talked about.
I'd like to hear about the status, are we deploying meters or not?
I have to follow up with Jacob. I know he was, any new account, they've been putting them in. And so, and if they've been changing meters, swapping meters, like for any deficiency or whatever, I think they've been putting the new ones in
I thought we approved where
to go ahead and start.
started deploying.
Yeah,
I know they got a lot of stuff to do.
I know they've been catching up a lot on a lot of stuff, but I can follow up and find out where they're at with it.
So how many meters will we be putting in?
Well, I know we only had so many in stock.
Right.
We had, I don't know how many came on that one pallet that they bought.
That's gonna make a big.
I've even had him go ahead, because we had like 20 some odd water meters. I've even had him go ahead and start putting those in, at least they're in. They may not be hooked up to the AMI reading yet.
That's another savings. I know it's money up front that's gonna save us down the road because we don't have to have somebody going out there and getting the readings.
Right.
And it's gonna send the accurate reading for you. It still has to be monitored.
But at least it's like probably put it in a spreadsheet.
And we're
It's
paying,
digital.
we're paying for the services. Got that invoice the other day.
Hmm.
We're paying for the data.
And we got the first bill for the data yesterday.
It was significant. But it's up, yeah, it's up to like the first 5,000 meters or something like that. You know, and anything after that's only like 10 cents.
This one, 5.
So
Exactly. So we need to put them all in if we have to sit in the warehouse.
Another example of how we spend money, you don't give us an accurate.
I'm sorry.
Like all the, like,
Another-
well, he found like 15 VoIP phones in the
Yeah.
closet in there that we've already bought the phones, they're already here.
Well, another thing you need to look at on that, phone bill too, is, Chief was saying that at one time they bought iPads for all the council members. We're using our own, some not being used, if they've got a SIM card, in, somebody's paying a bill on it.
Here's one. I'm
Jack
using
and all
one of
that.
There's one.
I never got mine back.
I mean, I
I still
don't
got the
mind
charger
it.
at the
I don't use it.
Really?
But that doesn't mean it's not sitting in there drawing.
Sure, sure.
I
But
don't even know where they are. Philip Weaver gave me that one.
I don't
That
think
was
they had any internet on them. They just little.
yeah,
tablets.
maybe they're just tablets. But yeah, we'll look.
I don't
We'll have to
think
find
they
it.
had internet on them.
I mean, we have equipment.
Got one in the front seat of my truck.
Good.
Yeah, but I turned mine in long time ago.
I think that's the one Katie had in there.
Is it?
All right, any other items? Any other items? I need one last motion, please.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Vicky motion. Shelton second.
Thanks, Chief.
We'll call the meeting at 8:32
I
p.m.
want some margaritas after this.
Where we're going.
8:32 p.m.
Excellent.
Thank y'all.
Have fun with your cricket.
Huh?
Have fun with your cricket.
Oh, I know. I don't know why I'm doing that.